first thing we're going to do, like always, is going to cover the whole canvas with some paint. That's usually the first thing we do, is put some paint on the canvas. And a couple reasons for that. One is it makes it easier to paint on later, gives you a better surface. It's got kind of fresh coating on it. But also it kind of sets the tone. We're going to use kind of this sky color, cover the whole canvas with it, because even these other colors in here kind of show that blue through there. Now this picture, if everybody got this, we're not going to have one full size to trace with. We don't need it. There's nothing to trace on this one. Very simple. We don't need a sketch. We've got it basically, it's in thirds. A third of it is sky, the next third is water, the next third is beach on that side. So we're just going to kind of estimate where those lines are. But to start with the sky color, and the colors on this printout are not exactly right. They're a little dark. I'm going to kind of go more by what I show you rather than your picture on this part. Now this is going to be mostly just ultramarine blue and white. It's mostly these two colors. And if you go just those two colors, you're 95% of the way there. Right? I'm not putting very much water. I did wet my brush just a little, but I don't want to put a lot of water in it.
Can you take up a lot of space?
Sit back.
Bob Ross stands up, Link Tree.
I'll block you even more if I stand up. I'm gonna put just the tiniest little hair of that magenta in there. If you get too much of that, you're gonna have purple. Also a tiniest amount of brown, just to make it a little more gray. And that does, and even a smaller amount of this phthalo blue. That, see how that does? That gives it that weird
stormy sky blue.
Yeah, it ain't really stormy. This is, I picture this being, if you haven't painted, but the sky, a blue sky is not always the same blue. In the spring it's one color, in the summer it's another color. This is more like a early spring, late summer. This is where we're at right now.
It's like a robin's egg.
Exactly. It's a little bit pastel, but it's kind of got some grays in it. And now for the sky, no, you can't paint a storm on this one. No, you won't to.
Now that you said she can't.
She'll find it. Watch me.
The sky part.
We're trying to get out of the snow.
I didn't make enough paint.
I'm not ready for that yet.
You're not?
The sky part of this is the part that really matters to get the color exactly right. So I made enough paint. I started at the top, but as I go down, all of this is going to be covered up.
Yeah.
But so I want to get it as close as I can, and just kind of work quick and cover this. Remember, don't get too much water in it. As I get to the bottom and get it done, I'm going to come back up before it gets completely dry and smooth out the very top. That top part is going to show. That's the only thing that's going to stay uncovered, is the very top. I could have just made a lot more paint, but I mix it on the canvas. It's all good. Doesn't matter if this bottom part is streaky, ugly. It really don't matter what the bottom looks like. I'm just going to kind of scrub it into the canvas. Is the most important thing, that it gets kind of scrubbed in to all the fibers of the canvas. I'm going to smooth it out a little. But now as I get to the top, that's my sky. I want my sky to be pretty smooth. I'm not going to make any clouds, even though Ruthie loves to paint clouds. I'm just going to smooth that out a little. So it's kind of, you just kind of lightly let the brush drag into the smooth horizontal strokes to smooth out. Now I got a little dark streak in there. I like that. I'm leaving that. That's the sky. That's all we're going to do to the sky. We're not going to touch anything else from here up. That third of the painting is done. And we're going to cover all this up so it doesn't matter how choppy that looks. Except that, see how that looks like the canvas might not be covered good. I'm going to make sure I kind of scrub that in. Make sure the paint is all over the canvas. Push it off the back again.
I was fixing the grab.
All right, let's get that far. And all right, we got the sky done. Next is the water. And you notice it goes about another third of the painting. So not even really going to have to measure this, but just to give you something, because I know you'll ask. We're going to say about 5 inches. I'm going to say about 5 inches. The key to it, though, is just make sure that it's the same all the way across.
Yeah.
The worst thing you can have is a tilt in your water. If it's tilted down like this, it's going to be...
always has.
It's gonna mess it up.
You're either drunk or you're the boat is leaning.
It makes you
Clear up,
run off
run
the
one more
end.
time.
Yeah, your water run off the end of the canvas.
Yeah.
I had to do that before.
And people be wanting to straighten it out.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you have to hang it. You have to hang it straight. When you do a line like this, it's good to kind of just go ahead and erase it a little bit. Once you put some paint on it, it won't erase
They
it.
know.
Yeah.
I was gonna
So
do
I'll go ahead and just kind of lightly erase over that. I can see it, but
Barely
it's not.
have line.
There we go. Now, the other section of this is going to come down about here, and we're going to probably, it looks like about here. So really only this section in here is going to be water, but I'm not even going to worry about those lines. We paint over that.
Yeah.
When we put the dune in front of it, we'll come over top of it.
Yeah.
It actually looks more real when you layer one in front of the other rather than try to stop at it. So our ocean color, excuse me, is going to be about like what we had for the sky, but darker, of course. And I want a little bit more of the phthalo blue. That phthalo blue, I'm going to put 2 hairs of it in there this time. See that color? Maybe a hair more of it even. Don't get too dark with this. This is far away, especially this top horizon line is really far away. And if you notice, it's not very clean at all. It's a very hazy, fuzzy line, and that's what we want. We want it to be straight, but we need it to be soft. Okay? So that's going to be the hardest part of this, is making that line straight and soft.
Yeah.
We do want the streaks in it. We don't want a perfect wall, so it may take a couple coats to get some of that going, but I'm going to make sure I get my color right first. I do want a pretty good bit of that phthalo blue in there. Tiny bit of
5 hairs,
brown.
not one.
Yeah. You
One
can't
hair of brown.
you can't really get this wrong unless it's too pretty, too blue, too unnaturally
I can get it wrong.
blue.
All day long. So you get some green
Maybe
in
it needs to
it.
be a little dark.
Don't touch your green.
Phthalo is
Yeah, phthalo is kind of green.
It is. It turns a little tiny bit.
Okay, so it's kind of, it's there. It's not really all that super pretty as far as like, bright cobalt blue. And let's just try a little piece of it, see what it looks like up
Oh
there.
yeah.
That's a good base color. I'm going to put some streaks in it, and I may have some other, the next layers may be a little different, but the best way to do this is to do it quick.
Sir, that's my picture. Don't pick it up, you better have a smile on your face.
Somebody fixing to throw hands.
After art class. If you'd have been here on time, you would have had it.
Best way to do that is to do it quick. Now my line is too clean up there.
Yeah.
Too clean. But I think what I want to do is I'm going to use another brush to kind of make that a little less clean. Stiffer bristle,
Yeah.
like a stiffer bristle. Just going to kind of see if I can scrub that out a little bit. A
Little bit of water.
water with it. Just want to soften that up.
Yeah, there you go.
It ain't really grabbing it too much, is it?
No, but it's doing it. It's
Getting
doing
it
it.
slowly. This bristles are not stiff enough. It's better just to kind of scrub it a little. I want it to kind of mist out a little bit. It's okay if it has a line to it,
Right.
but I want that line to kind of just mist out a little bit like that. This. Just kind of lightly
Yeah.
let it kind of fade out that way. And what I might even do is come back with a little more lighter color of that with the above it, and help it from the top to blend down a little bit with it. We do not want a hard line. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get that a little bit lighter. See if I can match my sky color here.
See how good you really are.
Right? Well, push comes to shove, I can paint the whole thing this color and then it'll be right.
There you go.
More like it. There you go. I think my light.
You'll end up having clouds up there yet.
Maybe this is going to be the hardest part, is making that line soft. And if that gives me some streaks in the sky, that's okay too, because I can call that clouds.
I've heard him use that word. Clouds is a dirty
used
word.
the
for
C
me,
word.
okay? I can't make that. That's why they accuse me about it.
Now, see how
Yeah,
that
that looks good,
disappear.
yeah.
I love those.
Now,
clouds.
if your line was harder than that, that's not going to be the end of the world. It just looks more real if it's soft because it's so far away.
Yeah.
The further things get, they're going to get softer colors. They won't be as hard, as vibrant colors. They'll be softer. They'll be more blue the further they get away, and they'll be less detailed. So, this bottom line here, just make sure I don't have any hard edges here, because when I paint over that, if you have a hard line, it's harder to cover up. So just kind of fade, scrub these edges down here out. But that's that step. Now I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna let this. I may let it completely dry before I do what I want to try to do after it's dry. Just come back with a slightly different color, not extremely different, but a slightly different shade of this same blue color, and just put turn the brush flat like this, and just put some streaks. And that one's too dark. We'll work that out a little bit. And just make this water a little bit less perfect. Just a little less. Don't try to paint waves or give it any detail. No detail, just streaks. And make sure you go off the canvas with this stuff and keep them flat.
Yeah. You don't want them.
Yeah, don't want them falling off. Not going to create a major storm, just a little bit of texture to it. I think I may do a little bit more of that after it dries, just a little more texture, but that's it. Let's get that far, and then maybe we can have time to block. Kind of going to eyeball this. All right, so we're looking at where to put this, how far this dune is going to come over, and just as a trick, you can always kind of square off or kind of make a grid out of your drawing if you need to give you an idea of where to put things. So this will kind of show me everything divided in fours. Magic trick, turn it upside down. So my dune comes up to about the top fourth of the canvas, so about here. And you can't really see the very top edge of it because it's covered in grass, so it doesn't really have to be a perfectly clean edge. And it's not going to come all the way out to the middle. This would be the middle of the painting right here, so it's not going to come this far. It comes about here. So I know I want to kind of go right there. And as far as the bottom of it, it's not to the bottom quarter. It's a little above, probably here. It kind of goes up a little bit more of an angle. We got kind of a little wave here, a little curve. And it's a sand dune. If yours is not exactly like this, then it's yours. It doesn't matter. It's sand. The wind blows. It'll have a different shape tomorrow. Now the color that we're going to end up using is going to have a good bit of yellow in it, but I'm not going to put any yellow in here tonight. All I want to do is put some brown, some white. This is just the first phase of kind of covering up some of this blue. I don't really care that edge is perfect either, because I'm going to paint over that too. We'll clean that edge up later. I just want to get some coverage. I don't care if I even get a little bit of that blue in there. Just want to get the dune shape, get some paint on there, that shape. It's similar to that color, so that when we come back, this acrylic paint is a little bit see-through. So whenever every color you put on, the next layer that you put on top of that shows through a little bit. So when we make a color, we don't have to make the exact color on your first try. We can make something close, and then the next coat can be a little closer. And that's what this is. This is not our sand color. It's going to be a lot more yellow than this. But this is just something to give us a base to start with. And that gives us a solid corner-to-corner painting. Good progress for one night. All right? Now, those of you that are just starting out, I'll give you the warning that we give everybody else. The first night, you kind of don't care because it's just kind of throwing paint on canvas, and you're like, okay, well, that's, it looks like everybody else's. The second night, yours will start looking a little different than other people's, and you'll start getting a little worried. Oh my gosh, what's going on? It's not looking good. You'll hate it.
I hate this.
Second night, you hate it. The third week you'll hate it even worse. We'll finish this one on the 4th. I promise you it'll come together at the end.
The last 15
quit.
minutes of the last week, you'll say,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. I
Ask
did it."
anybody. Come back. Trust the process. Don't quit because it's going to come together at the end.
That's right.
So if you can get this far tonight, if yours is dry enough, if you can't, that's fine too. But this will be the first thing where we'll start tomorrow. The next class, we will start here.
Not coming tomorrow.
So let's get to okay. So the first thing we got to do tonight is this piece of land right here. That's just a big blob of pinkish brown right now. We're gonna shape it. We're gonna make it 3D, give it some texture, some shape, and start honing in on what the right color is for it. Now the final colors we won't be able to know exactly until we have our grasses in place, which hopefully we can start kind of putting those in place tonight, some of the base of them at least, and then see where the lights and darks and shadows are. This particular painting was a small one. It was 11 by 14, so there wasn't as much big wide open space to make up for like there is on the one we're doing. So we're going to have to work a little harder to get these shapes to look right. But if you look, there's several colors in here. And so what we're trying to create is this little valley where you would walk through there. So there's going to be some shapes with the colors. Our final color that we want to use is also not this. It's somewhere between this and white. We're going to go a little lighter color. We're going for Florida beach, right? Light sand, white sand. So each step of the way, though, and I was explaining this a little bit earlier, those of you who are just starting out, this paint is see-through. All the colors are kind of see-through. When you put a layer of paint on, you'll be able to see straight through it. And that can be frustrating if you're trying to cover something up. But the gesso, the white gesso, you notice we don't use regular white paint, we use white gesso. That makes it more solid. The gesso is kind of like chalky. So if you put white in it, it makes it more solid. So when you're making these colors, if you want it to be more see-through, if you're just trying to adjust the color that's behind there, you want it to be a little more see-through, don't use as much gesso. But if you're trying to cover it up, put some gesso in it. So to get the right sand color, it's going to have some yellow in it too. This is going to be white with the brown, with a touch of the blue. So it gives us this light tan color. And then you're going to put some of that yellow in there, and it don't really look on your plate. It's going to look weird, and you can't really tell till you put it on the canvas if that's closer to the color you want. And that is, that looks super bright against what's there. But we're gonna end up anytime we're trying to shape something. You usually use 3 colors. There's a mid-tone, and then there'll be a dark and a light, a shadow and a light. So this will be kind of our mid-tone color. And remember, our light is coming kind of from this side, so a lot of this is going to be in shadow down here, but light is going to be falling across this whole thing. So there's going to be a lot of this that's really light. So I'm going to get some of this in here really light. Now I'm using this smaller brush because this is not wall painting right here. This is just going to be messy. I just want to put these colors in there so they can have some variation. It's not going to look great right now, for sure. We're just trying to contour, the shape of the land a little bit. So that's the light color. Our dark color. This is brown with blue. Gives me a little bit of a gray. And you can see that blue in there a little bit. And then I'll lighten it a little bit with the white. And it's going to have all the colors in it, but it's just going to be different levels of each time. So that darker shade will have more of the gray in it. Like that. And so down in the hole, down in the valley here, it's definitely going to be darker. It's going to be a good bit darker there. Get it a pretty good bit darker. As you're doing this quick, you're painting on the canvas. You can kind of mix these colors on the canvas as you go. So I want it a good bit darker down there. It's kind of dark on this down side here, but we're going to put some shadows in under the grass. So. And then if you see that right side is back to light on this side. Again, our light's coming across, the light's going to land right there. So we want to keep, I want to keep this very top edge here clean, and it doesn't have to be a straight perfect line. It's going to have some waviness to it because it's going to have footprints kind of in it, but it needs to be clean, you know, just crisp versus what's behind there. And it's going to take a couple layers to cover that. The biggest thing right now is to get some dark, and I'm going to get it, I need to get it a little bit darker here. To get some good dark down in the bottom right here. Get some dark in your valley. A little bit of light coming up the side, and up here doesn't matter as much. I'm going to put some dark there just to have it something to cover up, just to have some texture under there. But all of that's going to be covered in grass very soon. Let me just get to that point. Now, most of the time, we want our canvases to be on the corners to be the darkest that they're going to be. Down in the very corners, you want them kind of darker on the corner, lighter towards the middle, so it kind of looks like we want a bit of a gradient effect. So while I'm in that dark, we'll go ahead and put some on the very corner down here, and on the other side as well. So we're going to have some shadows in there. But you see how messy this is? It is messy, but if my brush strokes are kind of giving a little shape to it at the same time. So it's messy, but the brush strokes are kind of helping to create some shape. Last thing, and I'll let y'all get started. That lighter color, some version of it, and it's, y'all, it looks like chaos when I'm doing this, but it's by design. I don't make a bunch of one color at one time. Instead of making all of that color, you know, some people might want to make all the light color, all the mid color, and just kind of start putting it on there. It's better for me to mix a little at a time, mix a little on the canvas, because it keeps it varies the color a little more. If you do it too clinically, it's going to end up looking clinical.
Which
This-
blue are you using?
What now?
Ultramarine.
It's ultramarine. These three colors are all we're going to use the rest of the way out. Ultramarine blue, light yellow, and burnt umber, and then the gesso, of course. So you've got a couple little layers of the dune here in the front. We're going to have grass there, but this front one here is a pretty good bit lighter. So I'm going to go ahead and just lighten that up a little bit. I don't need to make the line perfectly clean on it. Just trying to give it a little shape. Give it a little bit of shape that leads down to this valley.
Yeah.
And the worst thing you can have when you're done is a perfectly neat, clean, smooth thing. So get your angle right and start put some texture and shadows in. So this is not final. We haven't got the sand done. This is just the textures, the rough layer. If what you have now kind of looks like it has a little bit of 3D effect to it, then that's great. You've done great. If it's not a flat brown wave, you're getting there. So we really just wanted some texture. We're going to come back. We're going to put more like textured footprint things. We're going to be able to tint we're going to put more highlights, more shadows in the sand. We're going to do a lot more to the sand. A lot of this is going to be covered up, so don't stress about that. This next part, though, will kind of help us see where we need some shadows and things. This is going to be just the very beginning of the grass. Now look how this grass, it looks really complex. It looks like you spent days painting, you know. Andrew was asking me, and I don't remember, it's been a little while since I actually did this painting, but this one probably took an hour and a half maybe total, this entire painting. And because you don't have to sit here and do, you don't have to think about every little thing. There's techniques for everything. So this grass, the first thing about it is the bottom where it all comes together. It's all thick and you can't really tell where it's at. We're going to put that in first, just a placeholder, and it creates the shadows in the bottom of the thick part of the grass. The little detailed parts we'll do later. Don't worry about making it tall. So to do that, we're going to make the closest thing we use to black, which is just going to be 50-50 blue and brown. And I'm getting a spot out here on my high dollar palette where I can not get any of that white in here.
Is that gonna lean toward brown or blue?
Really, if it does any, maybe a little towards brown.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't need to be too blue, although these shadows do have some blue in them.
Yeah.
And this, don't think of this really as painting grass as much as you think of painting shadows of grass, or just, you know, black masses of the bottom of the grass. Now you do want to get a pretty good bit of water in this. Now this brush that I'm using, this is the smaller of the two. I got the bigger one here. This is the fan brush that's natural bristle. It's real stiff.
My favorite.
Yeah, and it spreads out really good. It's good for grasses, but it'll only spread out if it's got enough water in it. So that's spreading out. You want a little bit. Now, with this brush, I'm not going to paint, grasses. You're not going to flick or anything. I'm just going to let the brush itself. I'm going to lay the brush down like this and let the brush itself make the bottom of the grass. Just going to let the brush. If you hit downward, the tips of it will kind of do that. See how that works?
Mm-hmm.
You're just hitting the canvas.
Oh, wow.
See that?
Grass everywhere.
It's beautiful.
Okay. Now I want this to come. I don't want to go too high up with it. I really want a pretty clearly defined bottom edge here. And now the grass is growing upward. You don't have grass this way and that way anymore. It's growing upward. So
Yeah.
all down here. We come down this edge a little bit. I don't want to go too far down because this one kind of goes around behind there. And I come down about right there, just past where my water line is. You always want to avoid what we call kissing, where two elements will kind of all converge at the same place, where if your grass line meets your sand line, right where your water line all meets together, it looks weird. You want to have layers. So go past your water line, but come down just enough. Now, that dune right there, that patch of grass comes down. I'm going to let it have a little bit of the grass showing, the sand showing in between there. And see, this helps create the flow of which way the land is going as well. Make sure you're going off the canvas over here. Make sure you don't just come up here and stop at the edge of it. That second one, and I got these little flecks of paint showing up in there, that's fine too. That's sand, dirt. I mean, how can you mess up painting dirt?
Right?
This one that I have got kind of a light area here for, that's going to be there, and I put that there because it's in the picture. It's going to have some grass in front, but see that grass sits in front of, and that sand sits in front of the grass. So it's there, but I'm going to cover it up because I'm going to have to put it back in to make it be in front of this grass. So I'm going to go there, and this is my second little dune here. I want to leave some space between those two. I'm trying to make this bottom edge somewhat. Now, I'm not trying to stop at my line there. I'm just trying to keep to where there is a bottom edge. But now I'm going to cover that up with the sand at the bottom. I'm almost running out of paint here. I'll let that come a little further. I think I might have just another tiny little spot here. I don't want to make it too perfectly, uniform. That's hard. It's easy to naturally fall into some uniform shape if you're not careful. Now over here on this side, it's only got a little, and it's kind of above. It's kind of above the sand. It's kind of up over the water. I'm gonna make sure that's good and dark. Now this didn't have any white in it. It didn't have any yellow in it. It's just blue and brown, maybe a little towards the brown side. And I'm just hitting the canvas. Already, that's 100 times better than it was, right? And that you're using these shapes, and notice how they kind of tail off, how they kind of trickle down to a point when they do that. And you notice how that way when we paint these long pieces in, they'll be tall in the middle, and they're going to get shorter as they get out towards the edges of this. Now I do want to make sure that I don't get any of that black paint kind of up in my sky like that. That looks like it's already dry.
Oh no, you can make a bird out of it.
Yeah, it'll be a bird.
Throw a little seagull way out there.
Okay, so it's not final grass. This is not your finishing the grass. This is just the beginning of the grass. All right, so if you need any help with that, or if you need to borrow a brush, let me know. Like I said, y'all don't have to get too far on this tonight. I just want to show you what this next little step is going to be like while I have some paint out. So we got a couple different areas here. Got this area, we want that sand dune to be more behind, that grass to be more behind the sand. And right here, the grass is kind of more behind the sand. But up here, this grass is sitting on top of the sand. So there's going to be, the bottom of the grass is going to be different for those areas. For the front, I got my sand color here, my lighter sand color, and this is dry now. I want to start coming back in here and kind of imagining where the sand would actually be in front of this, right? And it's not going to cover really well in one coat, but we'll do a couple of coats on that if necessary. And I'm kind of letting it show me where I'm going to let the grass kind of show me where the sand needs to be. See what I mean? And that's a little lighter. And then on the bottoms, because my paint's not exactly the same color, I'm going to kind of let that fade out. And we'll come back to that. We'll clean that up a little more. I'll get another coat of, another coat on here to cover that really good. It's hard to cover that dark color, but you see how that does already. It puts that dude in front of that. On these right here, I may have a little bit of that going on here too. Just a little bit of area where it's in front. This side is going to be lightweight too. Now the sun is really going to land over here, so that's going to be a really light area. But all the time you're using your brush strokes to kind of create these contours, the shapes of the land. Let that be kind of like that. There's going to be a lot of this going back and forth. Highlight here, shadow there. But on the other part, and I just wanted to do this while I had all this paint already out and mixed. I'm going to come back to my dark color. And there's not a lot of water in this. It's kind of thick. But on the bottoms of these, I want to kind of thicken up the bottoms of them where they kind of sit down in the sand. And later on we'll build a little sand up in between some of this at the bottom. But I'm kind of creating the bottom edge of where that grass comes out of the sand. As it tails off, it's just going to be kind of spots. Almost like that. And the very bottom edge of this is just really going to be kind of spots, texture, like that. But it's really solid dark at the very bottom of that grass, like that. Okay. So that one. The reason I wanted to show you this step, and like I said, you can do this tonight if you want, or you can wait till next week to start this part, is because some of you will need to shape your dunes differently based on how your grass ended up. This is the point where everybody's is going to start looking a little bit different, right? Your dune might need something that other people's didn't have. You may have where you come in front of on part of it. There may be parts where it goes in front and parts where it's behind. That's okay too. And we're going to put a lot more grass, a lot more. So this is just kind of the first step of trying to marry this grass to the ground. See how that's kind of does. You can do a little of that or as much as you want tonight. Like I said, we can start there next week. But that's going to be how the process is going to work. We're going to put some grass, put some sand, put some grass, put some sand until we get layers and they all kind of marry together. What we want to get accomplished tonight is start putting in some of this tall grass. We want to get probably to about 85% done tonight. So next week when we come back, we can work on some little shadows. And some of you talked about adding maybe something in the sand here, some flip-flops or something in the sand. That'll be good for next week. So we're going to get almost done tonight. This grass, you notice how this side there's more, but it's not as detailed. And then this over here has more of the good-looking pretty grass. But we're going to start with just making the clumps of grass. And I want to show you a little bit of a technique on this, because the trick to this is making it look like you painted 10,000 blades of grass when you only painted 500, right? Still got to paint 500. But show you some tricks to this, because it's really easy to do if you follow the instructions and do it right. The brush is the first thing, the most important part. If you do not have your own liner brush, I've got a stack of them here. This is a 3-0. These long, soft bristles right here, that's what you're going to need to be painting these tall grasses with. I've got this too, this dagger brush. I told some of you about this. This one is a little bit different kind of dagger brush. It comes to a really sharp point on the end. That's really good for the really taller I might use it when I do these perfect ones that have to be on this side that are like really clean. We're going to save those for last. We can get our practice in on these on the left that don't matter as much. But I'm going to show you first of all just the technique how to do it. And I brought some paper. I brought my little clipboard. And I'm going to show you first with a pencil how to do this. Very, very easy. All right. The worst thing you can do when you're painting these is sit here and try to paint one blade of grass at a time. Okay, we want to be able to do this with a quick motion that you don't have to think about. Roughly, we have our hill. We got our grass that's kind of sitting on it right there. The general shape, overall shape of the grass is it's going to come up tall and it's going to kind of fade down as it goes away. Right? It's not going to. You don't want it to be all the same length. But when we do these tall grasses, what we want to try to do is make a circle. So you take your brush, and I'm going to show you how to get the paint on it and everything. But when you have your brush, just do circles, just like if you were just drawing circles, right? But I only want the brush, or in this case the pencil, to actually touch from about here to here. So we're going to do these circles, and just in this case the pencil, just let the pencil touch, just for that little spot. See what I'm saying? See how that works? This works the same with the brush. And so this helps you kind of get them all. See, the wind is kind of blowing them all in one direction. If I make smaller circles, they're going to be lower, shorter. If I make tall circles, they're going to go up. You don't have to think about each individual one. You're just making these circles, right? You think you can do that? So it's just a third of a circle is all you're doing. Now, the design, like we talked about, the design of this picture is, the composition is you've got a third sky, a third water, a third land, basically. But then you've also kind of got this swirl effect that kind of, the slope of the sand, the blades of grass coming in, these blades on this side kind of form a circle that kind of pushes you through the middle of the picture. That's by design. So these are all going to kind of lean a little to the right. So some do nots, some cautionary stuff. Don't design your grass on your hill to be all the same length and growing that way and that way. It's all going to grow up. It's all going to go up and bend over, basically. Also, don't try to make grasses that go all directions like this. It's going to look weird. Try the circles. Most of them are going to be kind of straight up. The faster you do it, the better it's going to look, and they're just going to be, scratching basically. So don't try to design the grass. That's what I'm trying to say. Just do it quick. Keep it going in one direction. Don't try to sit here and draw each, because you're gonna regret it. It's never gonna finish, first of all, and then you're gonna regret doing it. Now, to do this with paint, I'll show you a couple things, and this is mostly for the people who've never done it before. Those of you who have, these things. We're going to start with just the black, the dark color we use, which is mostly, about 50-50 brown and blue. If anything, leans a little towards the brown side. Gives us this black. The very most important part of this. The very most important part of this is water. This will not work. I just want to show you this because this brush is dry now. I want to show you what this does. I'll show you two things right here. With this paint thick like this, straight out of the tube, if you paint across there, see how broken that looks? See how that line looks broken? You don't want that. The other thing I wanted to show you is don't freak out if you mess up, because this painting is dry. You can take a wet paper towel and it'll wipe right off. Every bit of that will come off. It won't hurt a thing. You can do that. So I'm showing you that on purpose to show you this. When you start doing your grass, do a little bit, get it to where you like it, dry it, and then do some more. Because if you mess up, you can wipe off the wet part. The dry part will stay. There's nothing to it. Acrylic paint is very easy to wipe off if you make a mistake. So now, where'd my brush go? It's in the water here. The key to this is the water. See how thick that is? That paint, how it broke up like that when I ran it across there? You want to have enough water in here that if you tilt your plate up, it'll run. And run full color. Right? If you got a spray bottle you can just spray some water in here. That amount of water, where you can push the brush in it like that and see how that water pools up, that's how watery you want it to be. It's like ink. So then you load that brush up, and then when you get your circles going, when you touch the canvas, the very tip of the brush is all you're going to use. And you're only going to get 3 or 4, before you have to come back and load the brush up. You see how that works? You get those really fine lines, and you just want to do 1,000 of these. If your paint is too, if it's too watery, it'll start fading out into the canvas texture, like that's doing a little bit. The reason that's doing that on here is because this canvas was wet, because I had wiped it off. So if your canvas is wet, it's going to do that. So I want to make sure I'm good and dry before I start making those. If you have a dagger brush, you can do some of the bigger ones with that. And if you have different sizes, like that's a 3.0, that's going to be for the really small bristles. I would probably start with the bigger one. This is the zero brush, and do some
Will you show us how to do the dagger brush?
thicker stuff. Yeah, we'll do that. This is the zero brush will hold a little bit more paint, but you can still make just as fine a line with it. See how it still makes a real fine line? That's still kind of bleeding out a little bit because it's still wet. So I'm going to wait a little while and let that dry completely before I do that top part. But you see how that works, and you see how easy it is to wipe it off. That's the main thing I wanted you to see how easy that is. Now this dagger may not be, if you don't have one exactly like this, yours might not work exactly this way. This one comes to a point, but it's to a really single hair point. And what that really lets it do is it lets it hold a lot more paint. And it's kind of like a fountain pen. If you tilt it this way, it's going to run. The paint's going to run back. But if you tilt it that way, the paint will kind of follow it out the end. And so you can use just the tip of that, and it works really the same way. Really fine point. It'll just hold a lot more paint. You can sit here and do this a lot longer. Now, I don't want the thing with this, just like with trees, you don't want your grass doesn't need to get thicker toward the end. It needs to go to a really fine point. It needs to go down to a really fine point at the tips. So practice this. And you see how many times I'm wiping this off and doing it again. This is something you can keep doing. You can wipe it off. You can try again. When I get ready to do it for real, I'm going to come down here where it's dry and do some real grass here now. Start my little circles. And I just want to make sure that I touch in the little thick grass that we put down before. Make sure that I get some taller, some shorter. As it gets towards the end down here where the grass kind of fades away, then we're going to be really short down there. And as you get a bunch of this in there, they'll start kind of clustering together in the middle. That's fine. You can kind of keep going over it and pulling those little detailed hairs out of there like that. Just that quick, you can do hundreds. So we're going to do it all the black stuff first. Then we'll come back with a lighter color to do some mid-tone, and then we'll come back with an even lighter color to do some highlights. And so some of these strokes are going to show up really good, like these show up really good against this white, but you can barely see them against the blue. When we come back over with the lighter ones, they're going to show up better against the dark. So you don't have to think about where you put them, just the light ones will show up against the dark ones will show up against the light. So let's get that far. Let's go ahead and don't worry about the right side right now. Let's get the left side completely done. Now this top one is going to go off the canvas to the top. It's going to go all the way up like the picture. So our color, the next part is going to be like the mid-tone color. For that color, I'm going to take this same black that we've been making, this kind of brownish black, and just bring some yellow into it. That yellow is going to give it an ugly army green color. All right. The more yellow you put, the more army green it's going to get. I don't want to put any white in here just yet, but I do want a ton of water in it still. Use my other brush just to throw some water in there. Lots of water. Now this color, because it don't have any white in it, it's not going to show up very good on top of the dark. It's going to disappear a little bit on top of the dark. But what it'll do, it'll kind of colorize it just a bit. So you don't need near as many of these. I'm going to start down here in the bottom. You don't need near as many of them, but you can do just some, and you can kind of see how that color kind of shows through. You see that? It doesn't look that much different when you get it out here on the grass. I mean on the sand. But against the dark background part, you can see how it kind of colorizes it to be green. And this is kind of the mid-tone. We're going to come back and do a highlight part too, so we don't want to get too light. But if you want it to show up just a hair more, you can take just the tiniest amount of white. That like I said, the gesso kind of has a chalkiness to it. Just adding just that much, it doesn't really change the color of it that much, but watch how it makes it show up a little bit better. See how much different that is, how it shows up? Just that little bit of white. We are going to do some much lighter highlight colors, so definitely don't get too light. This is just to add a pop of just green to it to make this, it gives the illusion that all of it's green by just coloring a few of them. Not going to worry about doing every single, I'm not trying to cover every single stroke that I've made. I'm not trying to, reinvent the wheel. Just want to colorize just a little bit of it here and there. This should be much quicker than that first step. I'm going to skip up to the top one because in here, this is the mid-tone, so I know I mainly want it to show up in this thick black area where it'll show up. So that's mostly where I'm going to put it. I'm just kind of throw some paint in there and kind of push it around. You see how that works? Kind of threw a big glob of paint in there, just kind of push it around. It doesn't do any good really to put it up higher because it ain't going to show up that much up here. So seeing how that's kind of coloring that. Now the little top tuft up here, the top one is going to show up against the sky. These dark ones are going to show up really good against the sky. The bottom ones are going to show up against the sand here and against the water. This middle one here kind of gets lost in the one behind it. So it is really going to work best with the highlights. So as I go to it, and I'm not going to go to the highlight color yet, but I'm going to go just a little more white in that green. Don't try to make a pretty green. We don't do pretty greens. This is looks a lot more natural if it's not pretty. See how that's got a little bit more white in it, so it shows up a little bit more. This is still just the mid-tone, so it's not as important as what the next step is going to be with the highlights. It's just to get it a little bit more green, a little bit less brown. And if it can add some detail in this black blob here, then that's serving the purpose. See the difference between adding a little white to it and how it disappears? When this dries, this will almost be disappear. It'll almost disappear. It'll just give a green tint, and this down here will almost disappear as well. But when you put a little white in it, it will show up a little bit more. So that's about all I want to do to that mid-tone color, is just to add color. And I'm not going to worry about my little one here, not yet. Still not doing anything to the right. I want to completely finish this side so we have the experience of it and the confidence to move over, and then we're just going to do the same thing on the left, but you'll have a little more confidence when you get over there, because we're going to do those tall reeds that kind of bend over there. All right, so go back now, finish your dark and your mid-tone, and then we'll come back together and do the highlights before. All right, so we got the same color we were using for the green. I'm just going to bring some white into it. That's going to give us our highlight color. Maybe a touch more yellow. That's going to give us our highlight color, but having a lot of white in it is going to make it lighter, but it's also going to make it solid, so it's not as see-through. So we get it nice and light, still going to be good, watery. Load up my brush real good. And now this is where you can really start to shape out your little clusters of grass. You see how this one here, you can barely even see it except for the highlights. It's just the dark part, it makes it disappear into the one in front of it, but the highlights brings it out in front. Don't worry about the little extras on top. We're going to do those next week. For now, just the grass. So wherever you want to start, just pick out a spot. Now these light colors, they don't have to come all the way from the ground. It's going to be in shadow down here. The highlights are usually going to start about halfway up the blade. So as you're coming through with these, really light touch, real thin, and it's okay if they don't go all the way to the bottom. It's okay if they're just at the top. And with these, you may have to bend them a little more to make them show up against those other grasses. See what I mean? You kind of have to pull it in front of that other one. And I like to come back too at the bottom and kind of just tap them out. I've been painting on my dune here. That's where that paint came from. But just kind of lightly touch the bottoms of them and let them kind of fade down into the dark part. So you see how that's gonna. So it can sometimes have a harsh bottom like that one does, but you can come back and kind of touch that, kind of blend that out a little bit. It don't take very much of this. It just needs to be well placed and well done. If you do it and it's ugly, wipe it off and try again later. Like this little cluster here, that's hundreds of dark blades of grass, but I'm only going to need a dozen, light ones in front of it. It's only going to show up in front of the darker grass in the foreground. That's why I was trying to tell you, do a lot of dark so this will show up. Because when this gets up above in the sand, you won't see it at all. And it just doesn't take a whole lot of it. It looks like you did a lot with only did a few. Now the place where this is going to be important to have more is going to be this middle cluster here. And you got to think about this too. Shadows. You're going to have some shadows going across the bottom. So the sun is up here. So if the sun was to hit this cluster of grass, where would the highlights be? Be more on the upper left side, right? So you can kind of cluster your highlights according to that as well. So I'm going to make some of these really tall here. I'll get enough paint here. Make sure you come off the canvas, come in from off the canvas as well. Just a little bit. Just see how it looks like the light's only hitting the top part of the grasses. That's what we want. Try to get some really thin, fine ones in there. That's what's really going to make it. In painting, we always look for contrast. And so contrast can be a lot of things. It's contrast between the dark and the light colors, but it's also the contrast between this really faded out fuzzy line and these really crisp, clear, thin lines up here. Anywhere you can get contrast, that's a good spot to get it. So lean them a little more so they show up. Put a lot of light in front of it. These top ones, it'll mostly be the brush ones in the front because the ones that go up over the top are not going to show up much anyway. So you mostly want to focus on the parts that actually cover where the dark is. Now my dark went up pretty high, so I'm able to go up pretty high with these highlights. If yours doesn't go that high, then you won't be able to get your highlights to go that high. But that's okay. Yeah, as long as you got some good dark parts up there to show up against that sky. And if you don't finish this tonight, you start on this first thing in the morning. I mean, in the next class, next week. Don't be here in the morning. I won't be here.
Andrew will be working now on them into the morning.
So do that. Still don't mess with the right. We'll do the right tomorrow. I mean, not tomorrow.
Do we
again.
do all
Next
the way
class.
down into here?
Yep, all the way down to there.
But
now these
very
on this
light
side.
over here.
Yeah, now that's going to be in shadow a little bit. So there's going to be more light up here than there is down there.
So
There's
just
going to be
one
more
of
light on this tuft right here than there will be in that back one. Yeah. Brought this different picture. This is the actual photo that I did this original painting. The other picture we were working from was the painting I had done on this before. But this is the photo, and so we can see the different textures in the sand. We're going to get to that in a minute, but before we do, we're going to take just a few minutes to do this grass up here. Now you've got all this experience from the left side grass, but I wanted to show you the way this is kind of faded out. These are not real crisp, real clear, and they kind of come in the other direction where we know that we mentioned about the design of this. You got 3 stripes, but you've got this swirl that's kind of going on, right? The grasses are kind of leading this way. Well, the grasses on that side are going to come in. It's not so much that their wind is blowing them actively right now. It's just that they're sitting on the side of a dune, so they're kind of leaning in. But it's going to create a circle that kind of hopefully pulls you through the middle of the painting. So for these to show up, we got to get a color, and this is a color I was playing with earlier, but I'll adjust it here. We got to get a color that is going to show up against that blue. I'm going to start with a darker version of it. This has a little bit of all 3 colors in it. Just a kind of a dark green, and I'm just going to see if that even shows up there. Shows up there, shows up okay right there. I'm going to put a little bit of white in it. And everybody's color may be a little different because you've got to kind of do what works for your, see that doesn't show up good enough. You got to do what works for yours. That's more like it right there. Okay. Again, it's dry, so if I don't like it, I can wipe it off. But I'm going to come in here with plenty of water. I just want to get some of these, get some really clean, or really, they don't, like I said, they're kind of fuzzed out in the photo, so they don't have to be crisp, but they need to be one. Let me just see if I can get one of them to go. Just like that. It's easier for me if I do a few, do them fast. I need more water. Definitely more water. Alright, and they're pretty tall. See if I can get one of them to come way on up here. There we go. Plant a few of these, get them as tall as I can get them. Alright, so then on the little tops of these, I guess these are, I don't know if those are those COs. You're the
botanist with a big
local beach expert, I guess. If you notice though, there's a shape, an overall shape to them. They kind of come to a point. So as we come to the top of those, you're going to just kind of put some lines that come down, that come to a point like that, right? They just kind of, these lines kind of come down, come up to a point at the tip of it. Nothing too exact or perfect, but we'll come in here. Let's pick one of these smaller ones first, and I'm just going to start by at the tip with just little dots and a couple lines. That's all there is to it. Don't even care if it attaches perfectly to one of the stalks. It'll look right. Come out here and do this one.
You doing with the same basic shade that you did the steel.
Yeah. Same as the, yeah, just something like that. And this is watery enough that when it dries, it'll be fuzzed out just a little bit. Now, some of this, one of these at least, I want it to be kind of more leaning downward. I don't want them to all be perfectly, in a line with each other. One that's kind of down like this, almost broken. There. Yes, we'll do. Kind of drawing those. All right, and so when you get once you have a few of those established, then you can come back and kind of put some more grasses in there to kind of blend them in. And you may go lighter, darker. I'm going to use up this paint that I got, and then I may mix some a little darker, some a little lighter. Just like on the other side, more layers is better. Just want small, detailed little streaks that show up in front of this blue ocean color, and you got to do enough of them that it hides your little tuft of dark stuff there. So I'm going to have to do a bunch of these. when I get in that other color, I may put one or two a slightly different shade that go up.
Lighter or darker?
I might do both, depending on what it looks like it needs. But I know I need a lot more grass than this, so I'm going to continue on that. There's also, if you notice in the photo, there's some grasses that kind of come out from the side over here. So we may, if you want those, there's a few that kind of come in from over here, kind of just off the canvas, kind of leaning in. You can do as little or as much of that as you want. But mostly, and I did do a few of these, you know, tops over here too, and a few dark ones up here in the light area. Once that dries, I may have to come back and darken some of those up, but there may be a few layers to it. But let's go ahead and get our grasses on the right done. Don't make it as thick and big and heavy as this over here. It's a much lighter stuff on this side. And then we'll spend most of our time tonight on the sand. So I went ahead and started on some of this so you can see what it's supposed to look like. This texture to the sand, and it don't look exactly perfect yet. But looking at this photo, there's a few of these up there if anybody wants any. We don't need to do all of this. We don't need quite that much. Just some kind of in the foreground. And so these are, they're little miniature, little sand dunes, these footprints or whatever that you're going to call them. They're just little peaks. It's like when you paint mountains or anything else. It's got a shadow side and a light side. So the easiest way is to just kind of get your two colors. And this shadow color is a bluer gray. It's got a lot of blue in it. It's got a little bit of brown. I'm going to make a little more. It's blue with a touch of brown. You don't have to make much because it takes a lot of water too. Blue and brown gets you gray or gets you a black, but if you want to put a little more blue to make it a little bluer, and then bring some white into it until you get it as light as you want it. Now you don't want it to be too light, and I don't want it to be real thick paint, you know, creamy. I want it watery. A lot of water. It's like a puddle of water in that.
Make sure y'all
See how that does. And so having it be watery makes up for having it to be exactly, you know, light enough. So it may be a little too dark, but it's water, so it'll dry kind of see-through. And that still may be a little dark. But I'll show you just kind of the idea. You have these shapes are sort of like this, right? They're kind of like little mountains. You're going to have, I've kind of got these backwards, but the light's coming from the left. So you're going to have a shadow side that's going to start there and kind of pull off. You know, so you're going to have some shapes that are kind of shadows. They kind of do this. Different areas. And then we're going to come back with the light part and put the, and make the actual shape of them. So they're just little hills like this, right? Come back with the lighter part and kind of make those hills. So let's try it on here. So light's coming from this way, so the shadows are always going to kind of tail off. So you start a kind of clean edge on this top side, have kind of a clean edge, and then it'll sort of fade off into nothing. And they're kind of rounded a little bit. I don't want to make it look like spots on a Dalmatian or something. You want rounded, sort of rounded edges. All right, and I even take my finger and kind of smear the bottom edge of these out so it's soft. Or the other way to do it is just clean your paint out of the brush a little bit and then kind of soften that bottom edge, kind of make it disappear. A little cleaner. So see that bottom edge just kind of disappears like that. Once I get a lot of those in place, and so anywhere that there's going to be a shadow, like that's going to be in shadow a little bit behind there, since that other one is in front. I'm going to let that kind of be a shadow area. See how this does, you're making some shape to the land. So once that's done, then the second color, I would advise you to use this picture or use something to kind of match that too, but it needs to be lighter than your lightest sand color. And I've kind of pre-made some, but it's mostly white. It's got a touch of brown, touch of yellow, maybe even a touch of blue. I know that's the same color we've been using for everything. So that, but this side's a little more dry, so I can come over here and show you. With the light side, the light is coming here, so the light is going to hit this part kind of right there, right? And again, it's going to fade out the other direction. So it's going to be the lightest on this side. You got to just really think about where does the light hit the surfaces. And it's going to take some back and forth. It's going to take doing a few and then coming back and doing some more. The best thing on these is when you use if you use a brush like this, kind of a smaller brush, little flat brush, especially something with the soft bristles, it will, when you run out of paint, if you get some of it in there, when the brush gets kind of empty of paint, come back with the dry brush, and just even kind of clean some of it out, come back with a dry brush and kind of scrub those edges out. You really want them soft as they tail off. They should be really, really soft out in the distances. And I don't want it all to be dark and light. It needs to be dark, light, and leave some of the mid too. But you just kind of got to play with it. You got to keep working it back and forth, do a little light, do a little dark, until you get it like you like it. But the main thing is this front edge, these front edges of these little mini mountains, if you want to think of them that way, are kind of light like that. Yeah, that's a little more like it right there. Front edge is really light.
Brian said that ain't the way he's thinking.
Okay. And it looks odd when you do just a tiny section, but when you get the whole thing done, it'll look more right. Main thing is just you got to have discipline for where your light is coming from. Left side, the light comes in from the left, so shadows are going to be on the right, light's going to be on the left. It's going to hit like that. When we finally get some of that in, and I'll just draw this first, but then you're going to come back with this, and this is really my favorite part of this picture, is you've got some of these shadows that fall across these hills. You see how they break up, and how that shadow tells you the shape of that land below it. And this is back to that blue, really watery blue color. But we're going to take some of that and do some of these long falling shadows that just kind of follow the land. Let's see, like that one would have been, it might not have been a good example. But, and so I kind of got to get my shapes in here before I can do much of this. As I said, I'm going to do something and wipe it off. But let's see. If the shadow was coming across here, it would kind of hit there, kind of fall down here, go across there, kind of fall down again. And if you get a few that kind of follow the same shape, it creates the illusion of that shadow falling across the land. So let's get that far. Let's get some of this texture in. I'm going to do a little bit, and I'm going to walk around and see if I can help you with a little bit, and then we'll put those shadows in at the very end.
Like that.
So I made some more of this shadow blue color. I'm going to put these long blue shadows on here. Let me test this color out and see if it's... let's just try it from over here. Yeah, that looks like it's going to work. I'm going to pull over this way so I can get right-handed on it. So these are just going to be just the lines that come out and follow the shape of the land. They're shadows. And now say, some of it might be from this grass here. That shadow
from the reeds.
Right, that shadow would fall, let's say, kind of over this area, drop down there, maybe continue here. See how that does? It kind of sells the illusion of the shape of your land. It's really just a few that are kind of prominent. Okay. And then they have just a few more coming off of here that are more just out of nowhere. Across here, you may have a few that kind of go through there. Don't need much of this. Just a little here and there to kind of sell those angles. That might actually even be enough right there. A couple more off of here. stuff over here. The shadows of whatever's over here on this side. Follow that land. I think that's probably it. If you're still working on your land, it just takes some time. You got to get the light, the dark, go back and forth between light and dark, and just think about it as one big shape and not as individual, mounds.